welcome to some more ESPN FC live on our YouTube channel, specifically centered around the Women's Euros. I'm Alexis Nunes alongside Julien Laurens, who is in Switzerland because Jules. Oh my days. What a massive matchup in the quarterfinals. France, Germany, a Germany that has not looked convincing at all against a France that has really excited everyone ever since the first game up against England, where they defeated the defending champions. But today it took penalties for Germany to book their spot in the semifinals. I mean, Jules, this game really had it all, from missed penalties to a penalty shootout to extra time to sending off to Germany having to play with a woman down for majority of the game. And usually when a team goes down 13 minutes in, and the way it was going for France 13 minutes in, I never thought we would be speaking about a Germany win when it was all said and done. So how on earth did this happen? What went wrong for your Blues?
It's a great question, Alexis. A lot of things went wrong, obviously, because as you said, when you've got a woman advantage for so long, 107 minutes, if you count the extra time, you should not score another goal. You should not even have considered that equalizer from Nuskan on a set piece. France were poor, really poor with the ball. Without the ball, I thought their deliveries, set pieces, crosses were really poor. Through the game, they struggled to find any solutions with the ball, and yet they had a goal disallowed for VAR. That was probably which is and rightly disallowed for a tiny offside, but still an offside. It was really the only moment where they put a good move together. They had another goal disallowed for another offside. That was not a great move, but still an offside too. But I just thought overall, this is on France, and this is on the head coach Laurent Bonadé, who never really found the solutions. Took far too long to make substitutions, made the wrong substitution, took off Guilloro, took off Cascarino. I'm not even sure that bringing Majri on clearly for the penalty shootout was a great idea, considering she missed France's first penalty in the shootout, and she was not very good when she came on. Anyway, she should not probably even be in that squad, considering the bad season that she had. So loads of mistakes from Bonadé, loads of mistakes from the players, lack of composure. And also in the end, it's this, we talked about it on the show last night, it's that kind of psychological advantage that the Germans always had, because they always beat us, men or women. They usually tend to beat us. They're better than us in penalty shootout through the years. If you even go back to the 80s, the 2015 Women's World Cup, they beat us in a quarterfinal on penalties. So there's a lot of history like that I think even for them, for Germany to get to the shootout was a win in itself and a defeat for France. For them to win that toss for the shootout was a win for them and a defeat for us. And to see Majri missing the first French penalty also changed massively the dynamic and the momentum in there.
And I think we'll talk about Anne-Catherine Berger in a little bit, because she really was a standout player for Germany. And it's something that we saw last year at the Olympics, where she also became Germany's hero there. But for France, when you look at the team that they have, we speak about the youth, we speak about the experience that some of these girls have, the attacking prowess. You have Diani, you have Katoto, you have Cascarino, as you mentioned as well. For them to not be as potent or as urgent in the final third, what do you put that down to as well? Is it just where everyone just has an off day?
Yeah, maybe a bit of that. I think it was a mistake not to start Baltimore. She's not a player that comes on after an hour or 65 minutes and try to make a difference against a team that is so aggressive as Germany was tonight, so defensive-minded, and for logical reasons, because they were down to 10 for so long. So it's normal. I think she should have started. I really think that Bonadé made a mess of his substitutions, made a mess of his tactical plan in that second half completely. And I think in the players' minds, and again, we talked about it a little bit yesterday on the show, psychologically, the quarterfinals have always been the kind of glass ceiling. And I think in their mind, they were back to that kind of blockage of, we might miss out again on a last four places. And you know, the last World Cup in Australia, they lost to Australia in the quarterfinals on penalties when they were the better team. They should have qualified for the semifinal. But again, you could see that in their mind, they were really struggling with this kind of glass ceiling and the psychological blockage that they've had for many, many years, this generation especially. And I felt at times it was the same tonight. They didn't really have the belief that they could qualify. It was Germany as well on top of everything else. And I think they struggled mentally as well as technically through the whole game. And they should not have, because they had the momentum. They'd been so good in the group stages. But in the end, they were just done by a very good defensive performance from Germany.
Well, as you said, France has something with the quarterfinals. They were eliminated by penalty shootouts back in 2009 as well as 2013. So, as you said, it is a psychological, I suppose, thorn in their heads there. But now, if you're France, I know it's still early. I know the hurt is still very much there. But what questions need to be asked going forward? Because, again, this is such a solid looking France team that probably should have been winners of this all the way they started.
Yeah, but we're going to go back to the debate that we've had at the start of the tournament about the manager dropping Renard and Le Sommer. Would have made a difference in terms of experience if they'd been there tonight in this shootout? Certainly, there's no doubt about that. Both of them, probably Kenza Dali as well. So was it a good idea to drop them just before the tournament when the squad was announced? Only, 6 weeks ago? I don't think so. And that's on the head coach again. I said yesterday, I don't like him. I've never really liked him. I don't understand why he's even in that position, but he will stay in charge because he's only been in charge for a year. So he will be there. He will have in his mind the 2027 World Cup with what I think is a good generation with loads of young players. We saw Sombat, unfortunately for her, missing a penalty, but Ndongala scored hers. There's a lot of other young players that are there with great potential. So I think the future is still bright, but you need to find the right head coach for that. And I don't think Bonadei for now is the right head coach. He's got time to improve. There's 2 more years before 2027. There's the Nations League coming up in October, for example. So that would be good. But I think this huge failure, because let's call it what it is, Alexis, tonight. This is a massive failure. It's an embarrassment for France. It's a disgrace that they go out the way they've gone out. And that's on him more than anything else. So he better step up, because otherwise we're going to have the same scenario again in 2027.
With this being such a huge failure, do you think it's enough or big enough of a failure to probably have a change in management, to spark a change in management?
I mean, yeah. You can always say that when something as bad as what happened tonight happens, then you can't change the whole squad. You don't have that kind of depth anywhere. So you could look at the manager. But again, he's been there only 1 year. The last 10 games have been great because they haven't lost in 10. I get that, but tonight is on him, really. And is that enough to get rid of him? I don't think the French Federation will do that anyway. So there's no point in debating. He will be in charge comes the Nations League in October. There's no doubt. But tonight is a huge disappointment. And lessons have to be learned from what happened tonight. Pre-match, in the preparation, maybe psychologically, as we mentioned, during the game, the mistakes that were made on and off the pitch, and even in the penalty shootout, because it's not new for the French women's side and the men's side, to not perform well in those penalty shootout.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, I suppose even though that this headline will be more of what France did wrong to lose this game as opposed to what Germany did right, Germany did hold their nerve, and it was not easy, and they did have a standout performance with the goalkeeper, Berger. She's absolutely fantastic. 8 saves in regular play and 2 penalties. That's 10 overall. She was easily the busier goalkeeper of the night, Jules. Germany, of course, we talked about how this hasn't been the Germany of old, the one that looks as solid, a lot of questions and points to prove. Do you feel Germany proved or answered some of those questions tonight, or was it just, again, coupled with the fact that France had a very off day?
I mean, it's a bit hard to judge Germany because they went so defensive because they were down to 10. But again, at the start of the game, the 5-4-1 surprised me because that's not usually how they play in that formation, that system. Clearly fearing France, clearly going for a more defensive mindset. When under this head coach, they've been really attacking, scoring more than 3.5 goals a game since he's been in charge for, I think, 12 or 13 games now. Schuller on the bench, Hoffman, who's a very different type of number 9 starting, and Schuller clearly not being fit. She came on really late. She didn't even take a penalty in the shootout when she is Germany's best player, arguably, or certainly best striker. And no right backs. And then the sending off, of course, after 13 minutes. Another injury to Linda too, very early on. So a lot of things that Christian Vuk and the team had to change and adapt to. And to be fair, they did really well. And you're right, Berger is the hero tonight. She's a survivor anyway. I can't believe that some people in Germany criticized her before this game for her style of football and maybe some of her performances, especially the one against Sweden. But she was incredible tonight. The save that she made to prevent the own goal in extra time for a few centimeters is just out of this world. And then for her to score a penalty and save 2 is just wonderful.
Yeah, not only does she save penalties, but she can score them as well, as we also saw at the Olympics too. So obviously, if you couldn't tell, Jules is very hurt and emotional about this. So I'm going to stop throwing salt in your wounds, Jules.